So the challenges of the conservation work or heritage impact assessment are to safeguard the integrity of heritage resources in the faces of the threats from development, disaster or policy planning, and to negotiate a sustainable balance between the forces of change, progress and conservation in ways that maintain the authenticity of the threatened heritage, preserving its significance and meaning and function in the life of the community. And the third objective is to mitigate the adverse impacts of developments and change, enhancing and adding value to the heritage as a result. So this is very important to heritage impact assessment, that it has this very positive approach. It's not just focused on protecting sites, but it can also be used as a vehicle to provide benefits that enhance and improve the heritage. For example, it can render new information about heritage sites. This could also bring new engagement or more awareness, publicity, and this way maybe also extra income through tourism. Now, we won't go through all the steps of the HIA procedure, but you can imagine when you start the HIA, you have to collect as many relevant sources as possible. So these can be cartographic, artistic, photographic, written, both ancient and contemporary. In the archaeological profession, you could use LiDAR, images of the height of a country, from which you can deduce if there are sites or not, sometimes, not always. And of course oral records, because the community involvement is really very important to HIA. And the spirit and feeling of a place is also recognized as one of the attributes of a site. Potential social adverse impacts from developments or policy planning can be related to the identity or social cohesion. It could actually bring changes in the local environment and the local population and in the traditional way of life and traditional knowledge systems. This is describing the complete HIA process. I won't go through them. You can have a look at them. You've also seen this in your documents prior to this lecture. We're going to look at one particular case in the northern Philippines, Vigan. Vigan was enlisted as World Heritage in 1999 because of two criteria. It presents a unique fusion of Asian building design and construction with European colonial architecture and planning. And it's an exceptionally intact and well-preserved example of a European trading town in East and Southeast Asia. It's a Spanish colonial town with a lot of fusion elements. It's very peculiar, very interesting to be there. And at the moment, it's still quite intact and a special place to go there. But it's for international tourists, it's very hard to get there. So there are mostly internal or domestic tourists visiting the place. But still, this is a threat to the heritage because there are so many tourists coming that the ancestral houses, one of the attributes why it's on the list of the World Heritage, are being changed and converted into hotels. The streets, the colonial streets, are very narrow, and they cannot cope with all the tourists and the local population. So there are many threats. Also, local people don't have the means to maintain their houses. So the municipality is looking at all these different things and uses the HIA procedure to look at the potential impacts of the policy planning. One of those plans is hotel zoning, which means that hotels are being built outside of the World Heritage property in neighboring communities. the heritage professionals have looked at it and used the HIA, and well, what came out of this is that it's a good idea to have the hotels outside in neighboring communities, but since Vigan municipality is not able to control building criteria, there are still large risks to Vigan. For example, there is one plan for a hotel which is 15 stories high, and since the colonial town is all low buildings, if you would be standing in the inner city, you would actually see the hotels, and of course this affects the atmosphere, the historical atmosphere, and the visual. It has large visual impacts. Here you can see the hotel plans. Well, as I said, HIA is a transparent, logical, and immutable procedure for assessing impacts. And the consensus methodology says that it recommends the use of 3 matrices. First of all, the threat matrix, then the severity of impact matrix, and the acceptability of impact matrix. We're going to look at the threat matrix for the purpose of this lecture. It looks at the different stages before and during the operation of the development, the different attributes related to the heritage, the contribution to significance, medium, high or low, type of impact, indirect, direct, residual, cumulative, duration of impact, temporary, permanent, spatial extent, extended or limited. So the second exercise will be that you will look at the heritage you've chosen as your personal heritage and its attributes, and then make this threat matrix. Yeah, we will, in the next lectures, we will go through all the matrices step by step, and you will end with your own heritage impact assessment from your own threatened heritage. Okay, well, see you next week.